Hello everybody! My name is MJ the Tutor, and you are listening to another episode of Accounting Makes Sense, an MJ the Tutor podcast. This podcast is focused on helping accounting students all over the world by offering a quick warm-up on various accounting and business topics that hopefully leads to the generation of bigger discussions and conversation. If you're currently studying CIMA right now, this episode is for you. In today's episode, we're going to look at the answer walkthroughs that CIMA has provided students on their website. I'll include the website URL for these walkthroughs on the show notes. The most recent walkthrough provided by CIMA at the time of this episode airing is based on the May and August 2020 exams. Now, CIMA doesn't provide walkthroughs a whole lot. It comes once in a blue moon. That's why we're so excited. But jokes aside, I believe that these can prove invaluable to students and remove any myths or questions surrounding the case studies, especially things like how long should a student answer be, whether knowing theories can help and assist you in answering or not, what constitutes a good answer, and of course many other questions. So first, what is an answer walkthrough? An answer walkthrough is a step-by-step explanation or demonstration of how to solve a problem or answer a question. It typically breaks down each part of the problem, proving clear explanations, examples, and reasoning behind each step. Answer walkthroughs are commonly used in educational contexts to help students understand the process of solving a problem or arriving at a solution. They can be particularly helpful in complex problems like the case studies, where understanding the theory behind the application is as important as arriving at the correct answer. So now that we know what an answer walkthrough is, let's take an example of the management case study one that's been provided. Now, just to throw it out there, even though I'm only doing the MCS one right now, this discussion and analysis would apply to the OCS and SCS walkthroughs as well. I'll draw your attention to the answer portion of the walkthrough. So this is on page 2. The particular sentence or paragraph that I'm going to do the analysis on is the one on net present value and IRR. I'm now going to read what the student answers were on this particular point. I'll start with the student that failed. So the failed answer consisted of 2 points, point 1 and point 4, which dealt with NPV and IRR. Point 1 states, even though the NPV of swimming pool is slightly lower than the gym NPV by $460,000, the investment term is less than the gym's. Point number 4, IRR, which the cost of capital at which our NPV becomes zero, the swimming pool's IRR shows at 29.6%, whereas for the gym is 19.3%. So you'll note that the failed answer did not really add anything to the conversation. Simply stating that this is not the same as that will obviously not earn you a lot of marks. The whole point is to showcase what the story behind the movement is. So it's lower or it's higher. Why did it happen? What does it mean? What does it mean for your business? How would it affect it? This is what markers and examiners describe as not applying to scenario, because the student has simply repeated information that has been given to them. Think about this. When you get financial statements and you look at the numbers from the current year versus the previous year, when you report this to your stakeholders, you don't simply tell them that this line went down, that line went up. Your duty should include stating this line went down because of these various reasons, blah, 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 blah. Right? That's exactly what is lacking in these answers. Now, let's take a look at how the good answers did it. The good answer says, net present value is the most commonly used method for project appraisals. It is preferred to IRR because it is an absolute measure, so it allows for comparisons between different projects. For the pool and the gym projects at Alpaca, we can firstly see that both NPVs are positive, and so each project would be acceptable as the expected present value of cash inflows are greater than the present value of cash outflows. Secondly, we can see that the gym project has a higher NPV, 8 million, compared to the pool project, 7.5 billion. Therefore, if we are restricted with our capital investment funds for any reason, such as external limitation, then it is favorable to proceed with the gym project over the pool project due to the higher NPV. Because of just length, you can see that more thought has been given in this answer. The student lays out the answer wherein he or she introduces the theory, talks a little about the theory, and you can see it's not overdone. It doesn't need to be extensive, just a brief overview of why we are using it here in this situation. Next, the answer goes on to use the information given. So here is when you start to see the comparison of what went up, what went down. But you also need to provide insights in getting this information. What does this information do for you? You'll see that the good answer stated why one would be better than the other. If there is a capital restriction, it's better that we go with a particular choice rather than the other one. You can see the train of thought that the student had. He actually took the information, obviously restated some to show that he's going to use those information, but then he proceeded to say what this information told him in terms of how it can help with the decision. So that's it. That's it in terms of the meat of the answer. That is how you're going to present your answers. You want to make sure that you are not just simply restating information, that you are using the information to help you with your arguments. There are other differences between the good and failed answers, so I want to actually briefly touch on those while we're doing this episode. The first one is length. So I spoke a little bit about length earlier, talking about the good answer obviously is considerably longer than the failed answer. Now, generally, longer answers would mean more meat, more analysis, more discussion. Hence why they work better. But having said this, you have to understand too that if you write longer answers just for the sake of fillers, you're also not going to score well. So the actual answer also does matter. So when you're putting together your answer, you shouldn't really just be looking at putting as long of an answer as possible. You want to make sure that whatever you're answering, you're giving a good answer that is addressing the requirement. Number 2, spelling. You'll note that both answers contain small spelling mistakes here and there. And you'll note that the walkthroughs presented the answer as they are written. So it's not a big deal if you misspell words. The main thing is you want to make sure that the answer is still understandable. Number 3, headings. Students may be surprised to see that using headings does make sense. I've had a blog post about using headings before, and I want to reiterate this again, since a lot of students feel that this is something that doesn't benefit them. You can see as you are reading the answers, you yourself benefit when you are reading the answers with headings. You can see that the student signifies with the heading that he or she is making a big point. Number 4, theory. The use of technical knowledge is demonstrated on the walkthrough. You can use it to help you structure your answers. You can use it to help you explain your point initially as a jumping point to show where you are going with your arguments. It doesn't hurt to show that you have technical knowledge of a topic. In fact, I find that if a student is well supported by a technical knowledge on a certain topic, it is a whole lot easier for that student to apply it in a particular scenario. Anyway, that's how you can use the walkthroughs to understand what types of answers CIMA deems as good answers at the case study exams. That's it for me today, and I hope you found this episode interesting and educational. Thank you for listening to Accounting Makes Sense. As always, I am your host, MJ the Tutor. If you're keen to connect to be updated with the arrival of the next episode of this podcast or find CIMA resources online, please head on over to my website, www.mjthetutor.com. You can also hit subscribe on whichever platform you are using to listen to this podcast. If you want to connect on social media, I'm on Facebook, X, and Instagram under the name MJ the Tutor. So, I hope to see you again next time. Ciao for now!